Streaming software. Everything's going live right now. Hold on one second. Ooh, that looks crap. I probably have to clean the screen. Why is that one so much focused than the other one? Oh well, who cares, right? For live media, let's do the original.
Okay, let's go.
So what's going on, everybody? Today's episode. I'm using new equipment, so if it sounds weird, I'm using new equipment. I'm also testing it out. So if you feel like something is wrong, please let me know in the comments or something. I don't have my headphones on, so I cannot hear it. So I'm gonna fix that tomorrow, though. I got adjusting to do, right? My other microphone is to the side set up. I'm using a new microphone that I'm going to use tomorrow for my live with Alex Ramundo. For now, I'm just doing this. I'm gonna record an episode that's gonna air Monday, like always. Then Alex Raimundo's episode is gonna air the week after that. I got it all set up, so we have that going on. I'm using a G1 audio mixer, so I can control all my levels, reverb, all that stuff. If my voice is funny, I have no clue because I don't have headphones. That's why I'm gonna play this back, and if I don't like it, I'll re-record it another day. Let's go to my chat, make sure there's no one on here, because there's never anyone on here. Y'all saw nothing, right? Anyways, let's go on to the chat. Let's go on to the episode. All of this will be cut, because this is just an introduction to what we're doing, right? I got my green screen because I am going to edit it later on, but I'm also going to move it around, figure it out later, whatever. This is temporary setup, testing purposes only. Oops, I bumped my microphone. My tahini. Yeah, keep a clear desk because that helps, right? So let's get on with it. So this episode is about someone that I knew a long time ago. I lost contact with them for obvious reasons. Um, but let's start off with the story that brings everyone here for this. So a long time ago, I grew up in Carrollton, Texas, small little neighborhood, little bit north of Dallas, like literally north of Dallas, like there's North Dallas, Farmers Branch, Carrollton. Then above that's the Colony. To the left is Louisville. To the right is Plano. That's where I live, right? So this all happened back then at the time, growing up early 2000s, give or take. So I was 15, 16 ish. It's half my life ago, right? So, anyways, I was walking to one of my friend's house. I was going to go visit him because, my friend. If you see a lizard on me, please let me know because I had a lizard outside and I'm like a big kid. So I went up and I grabbed a lizard and I put it on my shirt and I walked my dogs out. So I had a lizard on me somewhere and it ended up here. And then when I looked, on my shoulder, it was gone. So I don't know where this lizard is. It could be in my house. It could have jumped off and taken off somewhere. Who knows, right? So that's what that happened. So, anyways, back to the story. So I'm going to my friend's house. I'm walking along an area. Behind me to the right, where I was coming from, is an apartment complex. This apartment complex was actually in a documentary about MS-13, which is a major gang, Mara Salvatrucha. Um, and they basically invaded this place. This is where they lived. This is where MS-13 was. You knew this. Everyone knew this who lived in this area. So I was right there, just walking by. Now this gang, MS-13, along with like Northside, different kinds of gangs in the area, their colors were khaki and white. That was their colors. That was their identifying marker when you were there. My favorite color is blue. So I wore blue Dickies and a white shirt. And that is the exact opposite of what this gang wears. So guess what? I was a target. Why? Because of what I was wearing. And and these gangs are not like, oh, we're gonna let that slide. No, there was like, you're wearing the wrong thing. Good luck. So I'm walking, and a blazer pulls up. I remember it clearly. It was a beige blazer. It was a brown blazer. It pulls up in front of me. Passenger door, driver's side door, back doors, 4 doors open up. Poof. Rear trunk window opens up. 8 motherfuckers jumped out this thing. 8 guys jumped out of this car and were ready to kick my ass. Now, that is not something to be taken lightly. I'm gonna increase the volume a little bit. That's not something to be taken lightly. So I wasn't gonna run because they're in a blazer. I'm not running, right? I'm blinking lost my contacts are dry. I'm not running. And look at me, I'm a big guy. I ain't running. If I'm running, there's definitely danger that I cannot handle. So I squared up. I was like, I'm gonna take at least 2 of these motherfuckers down with me. I'm not going out like a punk. I'm taking at least 2 of these guys with me. So I balled up my fist, stood up, squared up. I was like, let's do this. And I just waited. And they rushed me. They came. They were just running. And then they stopped. Dead in their track. They stopped. I was ready. I was mean mugging the whole time. I was like, okay, what's going to happen next? And then they turned around. They're like, oh, that's, Joe. That, they said my name. They're like, oh, that's so-and-so. And then turned around, jumped back in the car, took off. That was my experience with almost getting into a fight with 8 motherfuckers. Was I relieved? Hell yeah. Did I go home? No, I went to my friend's house. I was gonna be punked out like that. So I went to my friend's house, hung out, spent the day there, walked my ass home. I was like, if it's gonna happen again, it's gonna happen again. But they knew me. I was off limits to a lot of these gangs because I am one of the friendliest people on the planet. If you ever get to know me in real life, I am friendly. If you really get to know me, I'm an asshole. 2 sides of the same coin, right? So if you get to know me, I'm a great guy. People love me. I'm jovial, funny. You really get to know me, I'm an asshole. That's plain and simple. I'm an asshole. That's life. And that's what I was to all these guys. I was a friend with a lot of these guys. I'm gonna name drop some names, some nicknames, because I know their real names, but I'm not gonna say their real names. I'm gonna drop their nicknames. I was friends with Snoopy, Sega. I'm not Tiny. I want to drop some more names, but they're too recognizable from where I'm at. And actually, Tiny's really recognizable. He's a big dude. He's an awesome dude. I met him a long time ago. I went to school with him. It was like 6'5", 300 pounds. Probably more than that. The dude was big. Tatted up all the way across. Had a big old spike. He was just, you look at him, you're like, oh, you're going to hurt me. But once you got to know him, he was just a really cool guy. He was the friendliest guy on the planet. I'm friends with him on like Facebook or something. But he's a cool guy. Beyond the point. So I was friends with all these big guys, and not to say that they were in gangs or anything, but I was friends with all these guys, and these guys are popular. And what that makes me is not popular by association, is that makes me known. People knew me because I hung out with all these guys. And again, I'm not saying they're affiliated. None of them are. They're grown adults now with jobs and kids. That's not, that's not affiliated. That's just being a friend with people that happen to do some stupid shit, right? Because what we're about to talk about with MS-13, there is no, you get to live a normal life after these things. There is no, oh, now I'm gonna go have a family and kids and grow old and never do this dumb shit again. That is not their way. So, I'm prefacing this. God, I'm just letting y'all know that, I was a friendly guy with everybody. I was friends with everybody. And being a friendly guy helps out because, again, no one messed with me because I was friends with everybody. I think I might have had an enemy or two, but I didn't care because I was a friendly guy. I still am to this day. But if you really get to know me, I'm an asshole. Anyways, to the story, right? So, teleprompter, not too fast. I'll use my scroll wheel. So, it is true. I have had run in with this notorious game. Because, again, it wasn't, oh, these guys were posers, they're like blah, 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 blah. No, this was MS-13. This was legitimately them. Carrollton, Texas had a cleanup crew service with the feds to clear out. I think it was like Operation Clean Street or something, Clean Sweep. They came in and cleared out that apartment complex. It wasn't just like, oh, they're just claiming. No. Now, I'm not going to lie, maybe like the Sureños, the North Siders, the East Side Homeboys, maybe they were claiming, maybe they were just dumb, whatever. I don't care. They weren't a serious threat in my eye. Again, I was friendly with everybody. The only ones I was ever cautious with was MS. Now, MS is a predominantly Salvadorian gang. That doesn't mean shit. It's not that like, oh, no. Don't get it twisted. They have people from Honduras, Mexico, Chile, everywhere. They don't care. If you're Latin, you're in. That's who they're looking for, Latino. So, more on that. This is a very passionate subject for me because I I grew up in this area where this took place. And I've always remembered this story. I saw the documentary. It's actually, if you look it up, it's Gangland, something rat, season 1, episode 2, or some shit like that. One of the early seasons, but you have to like really look for it to find it. Let's see, Gangland. You rat, you die. That is the name of it. Season 1, episode 2, the original series. I can't find it streaming. You gotta buy it somewhere, right? You gotta buy it to get it. So that's that. Anyways, when I was growing up in the relatively safe small town of Carrollton, like I said, it was relatively safe. It just had this problem in this area. There's nothing really going on there. Oh, actually, there really wasn't anything going on, but every now and then we got weird. There was an episode on like CSI or something that had to do with Carrollton. There was a murder. It's an actual case, and I actually had a chance to speak with the sister of the victim a long time ago. Before I even started podcasting, I really wish I was podcasting at the time for this, so I could have recorded the conversation. But it was a long time ago. I don't remember it anymore. But I got to talk to him for a little bit. Sorry, I side tangents because you'd be surprised at how much crazy stuff happens in these small towns where nothing happens. Anyways, so in some apartment complex, there was a wave of new people moving in from El Salvador. And like I said, it's not predominantly Salvadorians, but these guys were legitimate Salvadorians. Again, because I knew them. Now, I know most Mexicans have problems with other Hispanics because that's a stereotype, and stereotypes have truth. Except not right now. Everyone loves everybody. See, but I don't. I'm not that stereotype. I love everybody. So, back to the story. In Carrollton, there was a few local gangs. There was the Sureños, the Northsiders, and MS-13. Then you had me. I was friends with all of them. I went to parties hosted by all of them. I was not affiliated with them. I was just me. I went there, had fun, went home. I didn't throw up gang signs. I didn't do nothing. I didn't go participate in none of their crap because that was not my life. My life was just being a friend. So that's the story I just told. So, oh my goodness, I told that story twice. So they called me out. Okay, so this story, this telling of MS-13 is not just what I heard of a person or what I looked up. It's about a person that I actually knew that that I actually knew because they lived in Carrollton and they cleaned up the streets and they kicked a lot of them out. So they relocated too. MS relocated. They went up to the North Minnesota, that area. So if you live in these towns, guess what? They're there from 2013 and up, I believe. And this is all off the top of my head because this happened. I lived this life. And you look up the statistics, it's gone up since then, like drastically because of these guys. Anyways, so this is how they recruit. They go into small communities and recruit children, Latinos from broken homes, people with like no dad, no mom. They live with their aunt, uncle, they live with their grandparents. That's their target because you're seeking family. You want family. So that's who they're going after, right? And when I mean kids, I mean like elementary school kids. They get them when they're young, and by the time they're teenagers, guess what? They're full-fledged gangbangers. So let me give you some history of the MS-13. The gang gets its origins back in the 80s, not in El Salvador, but in Los Angeles. They started as a way to protect Salvadorians. So it wasn't just a gang to like be a gang. No, they were like, we need to protect our people. So they were protecting their people. Good intentions, right? Great intentions. They wanted to protect Salvadorians from other gangs in Los Angeles. But over time, the well intentions ended, and they found that they had real power with their numbers and the trouble they were causing. In the 90s, during the Salvadoran Civil War, many were deported back to El Salvador where the gang spread. So now during the Civil War, they're still helping each other, but they're killing each other at the same time. You see how that worked out? And now they're organized. So once it hit El Salvador, the gang spread and made its way across Central America. While mainly comprised of Salvadorians, it's a wide mix of Hispanics. Like I said, children are usually the first recruited. Now, how do you join this gang? There's two simple ways to do this, and it is very simple. You get beat by 13 other members, and I'm not talking about like, bam, you're part of the gang. No, I'm talking about they will beat you until you are on the ground unconscious. And then if you survive, you are a member. I might be exaggerating because, like I said, I'm not affiliated. I don't know how it is. All I know is that it's a group beating, and that's not something I want. Or if you're a female, get a trainer in on you. Hey, if you don't know what that means, look it up. I'm not explaining that on this podcast. This trigger warning. We talk about some heavy stuff later on, okay? Some really heavy stuff. Trigger warning. I'm going to do this multiple times. Trigger warning, trigger warning. If you are sensitive to infanticide and femicide, please boot out. Skip this episode. Sorry about that. I got to really, it's a serious subject. So let's get back on track. So once you get into the gang, you're now, a junior, whatever they call you, because you're not a full-fledged yet. You're a recruit, right? It's like a business. Like they really run their shit tight. And now once to become full-fledged, you have to commit a crime. And not just petty theft or stealing a car or something simple, right? No, it's usually murder. That is what they require as blood. So from humble protections all the way up to the most heinous violence, from femicide and infanticide. And in El Salvador and other countries, Hispanic countries, they are the leading cause of femicide and infanticide because they don't care. They are there to do something. They are not doing this behind closed doors. They do this publicly to send a message that they do not care about the law. They believe that their numbers are sufficient enough that they're untouchable. You may take one or two of them out. Guess what? There's like 5 more waiting for their turn. So it is a very serious thing. They became so effective and so brutal that high-ranking officials in the gang, so MS-13, so the top dogs, the very top dogs, were actually recruited by cartels, like the Sinaloa cartel and Los Zetas. They recruited them in because like these guys were efficient at what they were doing. And what makes them brutal and terrifying is their weapon of choice. While most gangs use guns, they prefer the personal approach of a machete. So they weren't just going up and just blowing someone's head off. No, they were going up with the machete, slashing, stabbing, and getting dirty. That's how they did it. And you would identify them with like the 13 MS tatted up on there. They were proud of who they were. But they figured it out. That makes me identify them. So guess what? They stopped doing it. Now you can't identify them. So I'll give you a heads up. You want to identify them? Are they throwing devil horns? Like rock out? The way they do it is they'll do it and then they'll press it to their forehead to look like devil horns. Or they'll be wearing khaki and white, like religiously khaki and white. I'm not talking about like, oh, you got some khaki dickies, right? Cool. No, I'm talking about like, oh, I've never seen you in my entire life outside of khaki dickies. So, style choice, yes. Identifying marker, yes. Now, am I saying everyone that wears that isn't? No, not everyone. There's gonna be tall tale signs. You're gonna see like tattoos, gang tattoos. They're still gonna have tattoos. It's just gonna be more hidden, more meaningful. You'll see the tres puntos, the three little dots, which is from, they pay homage under the gang. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But no, now it's, you gotta identify them. You gotta be like, what's tattoos? What are they? You know what I mean? Anyways. So I could go on and tell you the whole story and history about them, but this is just the groundwork into what I wanted to talk about. So we're going to get into the actual serious subject matter here, and we're going to be talking about Brenda Paz. She was an acquaintance of mine. I wasn't her friend, but I did know her. See, like I said, I'm a friendly guy. I was friends with everybody. Everyone was cool with me. So let me rephrase that. I wasn't her friend. I was cool with her. She knew me. So if whatever, I did know her. She passed away at the age of 17 in 2003. At the time, I would have been 15, 16. This was a time when MS was taking over, and she was a part of MS. In 2002, she admitted to something so few will ever admit to. She was in the inner circle. She was so intertwined with MS-13 that she knew the inner workings, not just what certain gang signs meant. No, she knew who was going to do what, when, where, what time, what car they were driving, what time they ate breakfast, what time they ate lunch. She knew the itinerary. This was who she was. Sorry, I get passionate about this because, like I said, I know this person. I knew this person. So she knew about hits and about things that were never reported, unsolved crimes. So she decided to put an end to it. She wanted a regular life. She did not want to serve time for things that she knew about because accomplice, right? She didn't want to do that. So she became an informant. She had info that stretched beyond just that of what gang signs meant. She gave detailed reports on over 60 cases. She had made a decision that would cost her, and it would cost her her life. She knew what the results could be. Now, let me tell you about the little three dots, right? In LA, three little dots usually means mi vida loca. But MS gave it their own meaning, the three places you could end up: jail, the hospital, or the grave. That's what she did. Oh my God, hold on. Hello? Hello? Sorry about that. We'll cut that out too. Anyways, so that's the three places it could mean. The three dots is Mi Vida Loca. It's a big thing. A lot of people know that. They paid homage to a gang from LA. The Mexican Mafia. That was the gang. She was born in Honduras to a poor family, so she was the perfect target for the gang. Like I said, they were targeting kids. They were targeting people who were craving family, right? Now, normally girls, like I said, were initiated differently than the men. They were usually passed around sexually. Again, they had a train ran on them. Told you to look it up. But she was different. She opted for the male version. She was like, nah, that ain't happening. Let's do it the right way. She got jumped in by 13 people. She was tough, street smart, and charming. She was nice. She was a cool girl. Like I said, I knew her. She was cool. I didn't hang out with her outside of school. I hung out with their school. I hung out with their. Oh, actually, you know what? I did hang out with her outside of school, but it wasn't like I was at her place. No, it was like me and like all the homeboys and everyone were hanging out. Right? I was just in the mix again because I'm a friendly motherfucker, and I was probably dumb. I most likely didn't care that what they were doing. I wasn't participating in any stupid shit. I'm telling right now, I was not a part of nothing dumb because that's not me. I was a hustler. I sold snacks. I sold stuff, snacks, food. I had basically a convenience store running out of my grandma's house in my backpack. That's what I did to make my money. Nothing that illegal like what they were doing. Disclaimer, right there. Her nickname was Smiley. Now, she wasn't murdered in Texas. It was in her original hometown of Virginia. So she was from Honduras, born in Virginia, raised in Virginia, came to Texas. She was found almost completely decapitated. Autopsies revealed she was 4 months pregnant. Like I said, trigger warning, infanticide, femicide. From what I remember, she was pregnant from one of the members in the gang. So one of the guys, one of her boyfriend that was in the gang, was the father. So she's cooperating, and in gang life, you do not do this. They have strict rules about that. Everything from being you're shunned, you're kicked out, no one will ever talk to you again, you're marked. Anyone talks to you, that is done deal, all the way up to you're dead. MS will take you out. That's their code. That is their way of life. You betray them, you're done. Is it a guarantee? No. And I'll tell you why in a minute. If you betray them, they will have a meeting, like a business meeting, and they will vote to greenlight you or not. 90% of the time, 98% of the time, they voted for the green light. So that's it. There's no second chance. Once you're greenlit, that's it. There's no questions, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No second chances. That is it. This gang operates with brutal efficiency. They hold meetings like businesses, and like any business, they check on them. They check in on their own people. They do their own investigations to ensure loyalty. So they're not just like, they don't trust you 100%. You're just not like, oh, I'm in. No, they're like, you're in, but we got Pablo over there. He's watching you 24/7, and Mikey's watching Pablo. You know what I mean? Like, they got checks and balances there. So they're making sure that you're not snitching. You're not hanging out with the wrong group. You're not double crossing. That's how they found out that she was an informant, how Brenda was an informant. She had kept it all under wraps for so long. If she would have just disappeared with the feds and gone into witness protection like they wanted her to, she'd be alive to this day. She could have been like, I don't know, Maria something. They would have changed her name, kept her hidden under wraps until the leaders were gone. Because, like I said, even if the leaders in the area that from like her chapter or whatever went away, that wasn't it. There was more. You take one out, there's 5 waiting to take their place. So she would have never been safe. She would have had to stay in witness protection. Sorry about it. I get so passionate about this because, like I said, this is somebody that I knew. That's how they found out that Brenda, she had kept it on the wraps, partially because only she had some of the information that led to some of the crimes, but they also had her friends checking in on her. Like I said, they had checks and balances. So she's helped with 60 plus cases. You don't think they're going to realize, like, hey, out of all of us here, only one person isn't here. That's Brenda. That's Smiley. That's who's leaking. They figured it out, right? I look hot. I just saw myself on my Instagram camera. I always have half lids because I look like this 24/7. Having my eyes open wide just makes me look insane. I'm going back to this. Sorry. Side tangent. I get so passionate about this thing. It just sends me everywhere. Focus. So she gets told multiple times by police, by the feds, stay put, do not talk to anybody, do not do anything, stay here. But she was isolated and alone in witness protection. And why did she join the gang? Because she was isolated and alone. Like I said, this is who they're looking for. You are a part of their family. They are your family now. So guess what? If you're alone, what are you going to do? You want to go talk to your family. Who was her family? The gang. So guess what? She reached out to them. So being alone and pregnant became too much for her. She eventually told someone she trusted, and this was the final piece they needed to officially greenlight. She had called and met up with a few of them before leaving Texas. So she hung out with them. She was hanging out with them before she went back into witness protection. So she was in witness protection. She calls them to hang out. She gets out of witness protection to go hang out with her friends. Like, if I'm in the hospital, guess what? I want to go hang out with somebody. Now, when I was in the hospital for surgery, I was only in there for like a day. So guess what? I wanted to be alone. I was like, I'm tired. I'm sick. I've only been here for a day. This is my rest. I'm taking it. If I would have been in there for like a week, I can understand why people go stir crazy. So this is what was happening there. She was alone. She wanted to be around people she knew. And her people that she knew were against her. And she didn't know that. So almost like a premonition, they drove by the Trinity River. Now, if you know about the Trinity River in Texas, it's always been rumored that there's bodies in the Trinity River. That's where they dump bodies because it is just a big river that runs. It's over here in Arlington. They drove by it in downtown Dallas. This river goes straight through Texas. So, anyways, it's so. So they drove by like a premonition. And they had left bodies. So she was driving by a crime scene that she knew about. So they're having a good time, laughing and everything. And she was just enjoying life. But she knew the risk she was taking, so she got scared again. And she called the police and the feds. And she went back into witness protection. And they were like, okay, to keep you safe from yourself at this point, we're taking you to Virginia. So they took her to Virginia. So again, she was alone, pregnant, and scared. But life became too much. She reached out again to gang members. To here, she reached out here because they were all up over here and they knew where she was. And like I said, MS is connected. So if you were here and I were like, it's connected. So if I were to be like, hey, meet us over here, gone. They're going over there. They're meeting me over there. That's what they did. They're like, she was like, hey, I'm over here. I'm at this hotel. Like she gave them information she should not have given them. She was alone. She wanted to be around people she knew. She wanted to be around her family and friends. But this would be the last time she reached out to anybody. Little did she know that she was greenlit. She didn't know this. The members had a meeting previously about her. Like she called and they were going to set it all up. And guess what? They had that meeting in Virginia. It wasn't a meeting held here and they drove up there. No, they had that meeting in Virginia. They drove from here to there, had the meeting, and they're like, she's greenlit, officially. And they had chosen that she betrayed them and she needed to be dealt with. With her reaching out to friends, they knew where she was at. So the day before they gathered and put it all to a vote, and they all agreed that she had to be dealt with. The very next morning, her new boyfriend, or her boyfriend, whatever, called her and asked if she wanted to go hang out and go fishing with friends like old times. It sounds like they just wanted to hang out, right? Like, hey, if your friends were to call you, like, hey, want to go fishing? Sure, cool, why not? Let's go. If my homeboy, my friend that I've known since second grade were to call me right now and be like, hey, tomorrow, your day out, let's go fishing. I'm like, bet, dude, Trinity River's right down the block. Let's go. We would go. Hanging out, fun times, right? So, on a warm summer morning in Virginia, 4 friends went fishing. 5, actually. Because in everything I read, it says 4, but then there's also a 5th person there. They probably were already waiting there. Along a peaceful river, as they got there, gear set up. I don't know why I put a pause there, but as they got there, they got their gear set up. One of them was throwing out his line. He was actually fishing. So this guy was joining in, and he apparently didn't know what the hell was going on. But he was a part of the gang. He thought he was like, hey, take dumbass over there. He doesn't know what's going on. It'll sell the whole illusion that this is just a friendly thing. So he's over there fishing. He turns around. And when he turns around, he sees the reason they're actually there. Two of her friends, including her boyfriend. So out of the 4 people in the car, 2 of them were stabbed. She was stabbed 13 times. She asked, why? Why are you doing this to me? And they said a phrase. They just said one thing to her. Because you're a rat. And that was it. During an interview, one of them said, this is what they said. This is the quote from one of them. This guy's serving life in prison for this. Well, not for this, for various other crimes. I think he's serving for this, a life sentence. During an interview, one of them said, one is not born an assassin or born practicing where you have to stab someone to kill a person on their first try. I would have wanted for her not to have suffered. You understand? From the point where I was, it was painful. Soon after it was painful, end quote. Soon after, one of her close friends in the gang, did what she couldn't do. So one of her friends that she knew, who knew this happened, who knew she was pregnant, did what Brenda was not able to do. It's not that she couldn't do it, it's that she wasn't able to do it because of what happened. She testified against the gang. She turned everyone in. She didn't care about herself because they had killed a baby. She was like, nah, people are greenlit every day, but they killed someone who's carrying a baby. She took offense to this because not only was it a friend, but it was a friend that was pregnant. So she was like, no, that's too far. So she had enough. And she knew that her choice would have led to the exact same conclusion, but she did not care. She knew that she was marked the second she testified, and she was public about it. At the time that it happened, she didn't expect to survive 2 years. I don't have any updates on it. This was, 2017? 8 years later? I don't know what happened to her. I haven't looked her up. And I could do more research on this, but that's for another day. I'll probably give an update later. But I don't know anything else about her. Did she survive the 2 years? I don't know. I will answer that later. But other members of the gang who were acquitted or decided to leave the gang live in fear to this day. The gang will always get their targets in the end. If it takes them 20 years, you're still marked. It's not that you're marked, 5 years go by, everyone's forgotten about you. No, you're marked for life. You're living basically on borrowed time for them. That is how they see it. They do not forget anyone that wrongs them. Shortly after all of this happened, Carrollton, Texas launched a joint operation with the feds. They targeted low-rent apartments where there was a large amount of Hispanics living there. Now they weren't targeting it. I went country there. Now they weren't targeting it because Mexicans, Latinos. No, they were targeting it because, like I said, this is where they were focusing their attention on. They were looking for broken homes, broken families, and they were looking for Latinos to join the gang. So what did the feds and the government do? They went after Latinos in low rent areas because they were looking for the gangs. They weren't just like pulling random Mexicans. They're like, oh, we got another one, boys. No, they were like, you Miss 13? Your file says you are. Boom, you're out. That's what they were doing. They weren't just grabbing, snatching, and go like today. Who said that? That wasn't me. Anyways, I don't like getting political. So they were going after them. They were evicting. They were mass evicting all these people. They were kicking them out. They were taking them to jail, taking them to prison. They were following through on their crimes. They were busting down doors, taking people out, And guess what? 90% of the time, those people that they pulled were violating parole. So they were just done. So they evicted a lot of these people. They arrested a lot of these people. I didn't see any of it, but I saw the after effects. So because I knew where these areas were. So when I went through there later on, you could tell that something happened. I didn't know about the whole operation until years later. So I went there because a friend lived there. So I went down there, and you can tell the gang markings were gone. The cars weren't as many cars anymore. It was quiet. It was eerie, peaceful, just kind of not normal, but it was cleaned up. A lot of the areas, especially parks I used to have in this area, especially this area where I'm talking about, and down the street, had these ridiculously tall hedges. And I'm not talking about like they had some privacy bushes. Nah, I'm talking about like they had privacy hedges that were like 20 feet tall. What park needs that? Unless you're hiding something. I think that just goes to show that they might have been part of like the architectural plan of these apartment complexes. Like that's how ingrained they were that they were the gardeners. They're like, look, we need a privacy fence so we can do what we want here. Because guess what? Behind these tall ass fences, they were fighting, hidden in plain sight. Like you could drive by and you would have never known to this day that there was a fight there. And a lot of times it happened right after school. So like 3, 4 o'clock. There's cars everywhere, but guess what? No one saw it because of these big ass trees. So down Josie Lane, one of the apartment complexes there, it was right there, boom, covered. But after that, they were removed. A lot of the hidden areas were made visible to put an end to that threat. Do gangs still exist in Carrollton? Yes, they do. They exist everywhere. I don't care who you are, what you believe. You can believe you live in the whitest neighborhood in the country. They probably got their own gangs. That's probably like Proud Boys or something. Hey, who said that? Man, we getting way too political here today. Anyways, like I said, forget what I said. But this is what happened, right? There's gangs everywhere. I don't care where you live, church community, HOA, whatever. You're still going to have your cliques, right? That's how it is. That's life. People of the birds of a feather flock together. There's a reason that's the same. So they're just not as widespread. They're not as dangerous as they used to be. It's calmed down a fair bit, but the threat still lingers. MS has a pattern that they follow. They infiltrate small towns with Hispanics and slowly build up an army till one day you blink and they are everywhere. So, like I said, last I heard, they all went up towards like the Chicago, Minnesota, that area, right? So those quiet neighborhoods. And I checked. Even though earlier I said I didn't check, I wrote it down because when I wrote my script down, I checked. The stats over the years, they have been increasing crimes and they have slowly been, gang-related crimes and Hispanic communities that have grown. And I will bet money that it is MS. So be aware of who you're around, who you're talking to. Be friendly with everybody. Don't have hate. Be friends with everybody. That's how I made it. I survived. Look at me now. I'm a poor man, but I got a home. I have a job. I have a hobby. I do this for fun. But this is not a fun story. This is a serious story, okay? But be friends with people. Don't make enemies. And especially in our climate that we're in right now, be friends. Be safe. Take care, everybody. And until next time, stay spooky. I wish I had an outro. I want to make an outro. If anyone sees this and wants to make me an outro, make me an outro. Go through all my episodes. Make me an outro that I want to use. Until next time, guys, stay spooky.